I'm Tony Kanaan. I'm an Indy 500 champion. I'm an IndyCar champion, and I'm on the game plan.
All right. I am excited to be joined by the Ironman of IndyCar today, Mr. Tony Kanaan. Tony, thank you so much for joining us on the game plan.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I mean, you are the first motorsport athlete and you're the first triathlete as well to join us on the game plan. So maybe we can take a step back, do a little bit of an origin story for those that don't know the proud tradition of Brazilian race car champions, how you found your way into racing. And I remember when my mom saw me behind the wheel of my Toyota Camry, how she freaked out. So I can only imagine how that experience was for you first time racing.
Oh, Jay, if think about this, like for people that don't know Brazil, Brazil is very famous for soccer, right? Soccer has been always our biggest sport, but racing was always the second one because we had extremely three generations of very successful race car drivers. It started with Emerson Fittipaldi, then became Nelson Piquet, and the latest was Ayrton Senna, which they Netflix, some of the people had documentary on them. People that don't know these names can actually search, but those are the things that actually started to induce kids not to just get a soccer ball and go play soccer in the field, because also it's a very easy, cheap way of doing it, right? You can actually play soccer with anything. You can make a ball out of a sheet of paper and kick it. Motorsports, obviously, it's an expensive, hobby to have, and not a lot of people can do that. But I grew up, I used to say every single kid growing up, I play soccer, and my dad probably realized how bad I was and kind of suggests something else. And dad was very into racing. So we used to watch Formula One and IndyCar races on TV every Sunday. It was a father and son thing to do. And when I was 8 years old, he took me actually to a go-kart race, to a racetrack. And I think he had the intention already, but he wouldn't actually say, I'm going to buy you a go-kart. But watching the race, he said, that's pretty cool. I said, that's really cool. Can I try one? And that was it. That was the question that he was waiting for. We left that racetrack straight to the go-kart factory. There was actually a couple miles from the track. Bought a go-kart. Did not tell my mother because, like you said, we hid the go-kart in a race shop near the track, and we started going there on the weekends for me to test. My dad will make up an excuse and tell my mom that we're doing a father and son thing, and we just leave. Well, it started to get old with my mother, and actually, my mom, as every Latin person, that if the Latin people that are listening, they're going to really relate to this. Our women are extremely jealous and they're very, very protective of us. Mom started to get suspicious about my dad. What was he doing with his kid? That we were gone Saturday and Sunday all day from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And for some twisted reason, she thought my dad was actually having an affair and taking me as an alibi. Say, if I take my kid, he won't say anything.
Because you're gone for the whole day. You're gone for hours
the whole
in the day. Yeah.
And he wouldn't tell her, granted, back in the days, we had no cell phone trackers. We had none of that.
Right.
Especially in Brazil. So she confronted him one weekend and said, if you don't tell me where you guys going, and then, went on and blah, blah, blah. I think you're cheating on me, this and that. And actually, when he broke the news to her that I was go-karting, it wasn't that bad because she was expecting something so bad. So it was a great strategy.
Right.
Dad was extremely smart. So I think, and that went like that. So I started racing when I was 8. Unfortunately, my dad passed away when I was 13 years old. Yeah. He got sick. He had cancer for the longest time. And unfortunately, he passed. And but during this years that he was sick, he was always, I think, expecting the worst. And he was always trying to teach me things in life, right? So how to be able to, I need to take care of my mom and my sister, and the racing career that I was really good at. I won 6 Brazilian championships on the course of the years that I started. So I was actually extremely successful at what I was doing. So Dad made me promise him one night, actually, it was a Thursday night. He was in a hospital. But for me, that going to a hospital, it was actually not a big deal. He was in and out of hospital for 3.5 years. So, but he actually, that night, he asked my mother to come grab me at home because he wanted to speak to me. And we sat down. We had a very nice conversation. He was lucid, no signs of, he was sick, but not like when you talk about somebody that is sick thinking that he's intubated or in a coma or anything like that. I sat in his bed and we talked. And one of the things that, one of the speeches that he was being preaching for the past 3.5 years that he was sick, he was like, look, you need to promise me that if one day something happens to me, you're going to take care of your mom and your sister, but you're not going to give up racing. You're really good in what you do, blah, blah, blah. I said, Dad, of course. Well, that night I went home and I had a race that weekend. So I had to wake up early on Friday. I usually skip school on Friday, which kids don't do that. But we tested all Friday and then qualify Saturday and race Sunday. I woke up in the morning to go to the track and my mother was home, which is very unusual. Mm-hmm. And she's used to sleep with him in the hospital. And Mom approached me and sat in the bed with me and obviously broke down and then told that Dad had passed that night, which I couldn't believe it at first because I just had talked to him. Like I said, what do you mean? He was fine. I guess, I've always said that I think he decided to go. I think he said, this is enough. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to go to the racetrack if you don't mind. I promised him, and she knew about it. So she said, sure. So anyway, I went to the track, qualified first on Saturday, won the race on Sunday. And that's how, to make a little story short, otherwise we'll talk about the podcast, the entire podcast about my life. That's how I started racing. But Brazil, Brazil, racing was extremely popular. And that's how I started.
No, I really appreciate you sharing that story. And, as somebody who has also lost a parent to cancer, I know how much their lessons leave an impression on you and the things that you're doing. And so, even so many years later, it still obviously carries with you. I guess on that, the motivation, I'm sure, changes over the years, right? You are the Ironman of IndyCar. You've been doing this for many decades. And I'm sure at first it's living up to that expectation. Mm-hmm. Then you win. I mean, how does the motivation change at different stages of your career now having, achieved excellence at those high levels?
Well, I mean, Jay, I think for anybody, when, I know you interview many successful athletes in your podcast, but it has to start with love. You got to love what you do. Otherwise, there is no point. I've never in a million years when I was 8 years old and I said, I want to be a race car driver because I want to be famous and I want to be rich because that's what race car drivers do, right? I just wanted to race. I want to win races. I want to break records. I want to go fast, right? So the motivation for me, it's not that hard because becoming a professional race car driver I should say becoming a professional athlete, people don't realize how hard that is. I mean, they think they only see, he drives an expensive car. He lives in a good house. He has a lot of money, what it takes. And I think if people be listening to your podcast, anybody that came here showed you guys, there's a lot more into it, right? So to me was winning is addicting. So the motivation is there. The more that you get there, the more you want to stay on top. The more pressure you get, the more opinions, especially nowadays with social media, everybody has an opinion and can hide behind a camera or a tablet and tell you exactly what they think, but they won't have the courage to tell you in your face, but they do it anyway.
Yeah.
So the motivation's being there, first of all, because the promise that I made my dad 100%. And then you make it. Now it's like, okay, now I want to do more, but I want to do more for myself. And then over the years, you start setting examples for young kids that it's possible. A kid that had no money probably chose one of the most expensive sports that is, because it doesn't, it's different than a football player or a soccer player or because you're relying on your physique and how you're going to get there. Here, you got to buy equipment. You got to buy a go-kart. You got to need a sponsor to go do races. It's not just you. So to show the people that it's possible, then to inspire kids to say, listen, I lost my dad. Look at the story. Some people think it's a very tragic story. It's just a story. It's just my life. That's what life throws at me.
Yeah.
I can't sit here and dwell on why me. I'm not going to say I never asked that question. When you're 13, 14 and you're struggling, that, you have to work hard. And I quit school. I was in 8th grade because I had to work because we didn't have any money to help my family and also keep my dream and my promise to my dad. So the motivation, it's every day. It's not one thing. When people ask me, why are you still doing it? Because I love. People are like, wow, we have so much money. This because people assume also we're all billionaires. And yeah, I do. Do I have more money than I ever thought I was going to have? 100%. But that's not the point. That's not the point that you do. That you start your podcast. You're trying to help people back, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's good to get paid. I need to get paid for what I do because that's just life. But the motivation, it changes. It's a different one every day.
Well, it's certainly helpful to hold on to something as you're training, right? And I one of the interesting things that I learned about you is that the average, I think, race car trainer probably works out once a day. You train like an Ironman.
Three times a day,
right? And you're training truly like you are a professional triathlete. So, talk to me about what the average maybe training of a racer looks like, and then what the average training of Tony Kanaan looks like.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know. I think because I was committed to my profession so early in my life that I actually conduct my life like it's a race. It's like a career. I don't do anything half. If you say, Jay, we're going to do a podcast, we're going to be the best podcast we're going to do.
Heck yeah.
You're going to have an interview with me. I hope I can give you the best interview we've ever had and so on. So to me, that's what drives me, right? So if I picked another sport, I'm nowhere near a professional triathlete. I don't even have the time, but I'm going to be the best I can be. I'm not going to lack. So a normal training day for a race car driver, we don't drive the cars that much because it's so expensive. The rules don't allow it because, the most sensible thing to do is you're a race car driver. You drive a race car every day. You don't need to work out because that's what basketball players do. Football players do. Yeah, you go to the gym here and there. But so I would say 3 times a week, you go to the gym. You do some core exercise, some neck exercise, shoulders, lifting some weights, everything very specific to the car. And another 2 times a week, and 3 times a week, you go to the gym and you do a cardio. And the other 2, you just do a cardio because, believe it or not, driving the car can really raise your heart rate. Like my max heart rate's at 165. I get to 165 driving the car.
Yeah.
Which is hard to believe because you're sitting down. People are like, how can you raise your heart rate like that? 4 Gs and 230 miles an hour. Trust me, it will get you up there.
Yeah.
So that's a normal training. Tony Kanaan training because I mix that with my Ironman inspirations and try to be a better athlete. I pretty much train, I would say, between 3 to 4 hours a day. So 25 hours a week. My day starts really early at 4:30 in the morning. We have young kids, so I do go to bed at 9 o'clock at night. Don't guys, please don't be mad at me, but my phone goes on do not disturb at 8:45 p.m. And it's just a routine. So 4:30 in the morning, I do either my swim, my run, or my cycling, depends on the day. Then I wake up, give the kids breakfast. I have 4 kids. I take them to school. I go to the gym. I do my specific workout for the race car. Then pick them up in school, take a nap. Around 12:30, I meditate for 30 minutes. Nothing special. People ask me, what's the secret? It's not really. The meditation could be just put my headphones on, lay in bed and try to rest for 30 minutes, whatever feels good. Sometimes I listen to music. Sometimes I go and there are plenty of startups and apps with, some great meditation anyway. And then around 3:30 in the afternoon, I go for the third workout of the day, which it could be anything, the cycling, the running, but the gym usually is in the morning. And then all the other 3, the cycling, the running, and the swimming, I kind of play it by what days. That's when a normal week, when I'm actually home. When we're racing, we always leave Thursday morning. Then I try to actually get a run at the racetrack that we're at.
Okay.
On Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you're on track driving the car. So then I don't work out.
So the interesting thing that I think hearing sort of all of that, right, is I'm sure some of that has changed over the last few years with technology, because the simulators have now gotten so good that you're able to log those simulator hours. And I remember, I spent a lot of time studying the psychology effect of VR. And it's this interesting thing where when you train in VR, you actually remember it like a memory. Whereas, when you're watching a movie, you remember it like, oh, I was there watching a movie.
Right.
With the hours, I'm sure that you're logging in the simulator. I've watched some of the stuff that you've done on YouTube and Discord where you're sharing your simulator sessions. What is that experience like for you, and how well does it map to what you're actually doing on the course?
That is the simulation. It's very early days. They're like, everybody that sees me doing it, I do it for two reasons. Especially during the pandemic, we were all going to go crazy. I mean, apart from my workouts, but we created a pretty good connection with the fans. People wanted to know what I was doing, and I actually started simulating just a year ago. I've never done it. It's been a trend through the manufacturers. Now every team has one, but we do for a specific, to go to racetracks and try to refresh your memory. I mean, granted, we race every year at the same places, but once a year. So by the time I'm going back this week and I'm racing in St. Louis, but I haven't raced in that track for a year. So it would be nice to have a little bit of a prep, right? So it's like a recon course. But the simulators are actually a little bit far away from the reality.
Really?
Still. Okay. For somebody like me, from you, if I put it there, you're going to think it's the most realistic thing you ever had, which is true. Graphics and racetracks are perfect. Feeling, you can never really you can have motion, you can have this. There are still some adjustments, which I think it's quite normal. I mean, you're talking about a computer against real life. I mean, anything that simulates, I think you can tell, you can argue with anything that somebody tried to simulate. Even a robot doesn't walk like a human.
Yeah.
Right. So there are some pros and cons, but I am actually on the simulator at least 2 hours a day.
Okay.
Either for fun, connecting to the fans on Twitch and playing with people, or trying to do like yesterday. I did a 5-hour session on the Honda simulator, which is the professional one that we're not playing. We're actually with the real engineers preparing for the race this weekend. So that is part of my training. And then it becomes, as a race car driver, you're always trying to find the edge on somebody else. And we always limited on equipment as far as, I can't make my car go faster if I'm stronger, but I can make myself quicker with my reflexes and this and that. And that's when, start digging and trying to find things that you're not going to tell other people, which defeats the purpose, because now I'm telling everybody that is listening what I do. But that's something that, I started it a couple of years ago. Apart from the physical part of it, you got to be strong. Yes, you have to be physically fit, because to me, the fatigue makes you make mistakes. And you're talking about driving a race car at 230 miles an hour, this close to the wall, an inch from the wall. You can't make a mistake. And when you get tired, you make a mistake. If your neck hurts and you start concentrating on that, so for me, the workout was always to be able to, I wanted to finish an IndyCar race, get out of the car and say, can we do this again? And that's why I trained so much. And I think I achieved that. Nowadays, it's pretty easy. But then over the years, you try to keep up with technology as well. You try to be open-minded, right? I think, Jay, you as successful as you are, and then being an investor in startups, I don't want to become my parents that don't even know how to work on a tablet, right? My biggest fear, it's become that dad. So I'm always looking, and my kids think I'm the coolest dad because I'm 46-year-old. I have a 14-year-old, and I have a channel on Twitch that he thinks is the coolest thing because all his friends have. Yeah. But his dad's friends, they're like, are you crazy? I'm not going to do that. So, and I play games, and the proper games that they play. I think our generation, I'm not calling you as old as me, but we kind of caught up to that. I want to be up to speed, and that leading to that's basically, it leads to other things that, what could I do to become a better race car driver apart from things that everybody else does? Well, and an aspect of that, Tony, is that you've also been a fan favorite, with racing fans, with IndyCar fans for many years. And some of that is just the openness, right? Sharing your workout, sharing your simulator sessions. It is an interesting thing now, having done 2 seasons of this show,
a lot of athletes are starting to think about that, because as they, go into retirement, or they're thinking about things they want to do off the field or off the court, their personalities have now become to the forefront because of social media. You don't have to wait for a reporter. Now you can post your workouts on Instagram and people like you and they follow you. How much thought do you give to that when you're saying, okay, this is for me, this is for Tony, and then this I have to do for the fans? Or is it something that you enjoy doing for the fans?
I see. It doesn't work well with me when I have to do something, because in my opinion, it's not natural. I understand that we have to do things, but things that I have to do, I have to wake up and take my kids to school. I have to educate them. I have to discipline them. I have to be disciplined as long as I want to be in this position and driving race cars, because I have to be fit for it, because I also have a responsibility to come home.
Yeah.
After a race, because anything can happen. So, but as far as the social media goes, I try to be me. Nobody controls my page. Nobody posts for me. People that post for me, it's because I'm busy, and the person is actually shooting what I'm doing and posting. But it's not like, oh, I'm going to say, hey, Benito is a guy that works for me, and this is Benny, can you post this? But if I ask him to do something like that, the post is ready to go. I'm just asking him to wait a couple hours because I'll be on the plane, this and that. So to me, this connection, I love the connection. I think I always try to put myself on the other side. If I was a Tony Kanaan fan, what I would like to see Tony Kanaan do? Well, you can see me racing. You can turn the TV. I'm on TV. What does he do? Is he a normal person? What car does he drive? What's his routine? And that's what people want to know. And that's what I try to actually, show the fans and people that follow me. I'm a normal person. I have my fallouts. I have a bad day, because social media is amazing, right? Some people you're like, wow, they're always happy. You never see somebody posting, you rarely see somebody saying, I cried all day today. And, it's all this fake world that people try to make, right? And you see this young kids trying to borrow somebody's watch to take a picture, or find a nice car and pretend that it's theirs. That kind of stuff. Anyway, I open my life like I am who I am, and this is who I am. And I think people related to that I'm a normal person. I'm no different than none of you guys. I'm just a very lucky guy that got to do something extremely special. So I why not show it?
Is there a way that you have to walk that line between remaining authentic, and then obviously in a sport where sponsorship is so important to your longevity with your team, your ability to have the best team and the car and the engineering, the sponsor aspect always plays into it. And we are in this interesting world where, athletes are choosing to be strategic advisors with startups as opposed to having an endorsement deal. Is there a line you have to walk with Endorser specifically, but still be authentic to who you are and presenting 100%. Yourself? Yeah.
But that's the fine line of, what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to make money, or are you trying to do something with passion? Then you can also make money. And that's me. I like money. Everybody likes money. But to me, I also, I have a huge responsibility becoming a public person and becoming somebody that people look for, to be careful what message I'm sending. So X company is going to pay me an X amount of $1 million to endorse the product that I really don't believe it is, but you're trying to push it. My choice. I don't think I would do it.
Yeah.
There are plenty of other people that will. So please go ahead, because people don't care or have a different way of thinking. So to me, anything that I got involved, any endorsement that I had, any sponsorship that I had, was because I like it. Or obviously in the race car, I'm talking about my entrepreneur side of it, like business that Tony Kanaan needs to put, because I am my own brand, right? So, and if I damage that, look how long it takes. As you know, we talk off air right before. It takes years to build a brand. It takes one little single mistake and you'll be done.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely careful when I'm putting Tony Kanaan is endorsing this, right? It's huge. Yeah, anything can happen. You can, people make mistakes. You might believe in a company that you ended up finding out that whatever. But I mean, sponsorship wise, I was very lucky that all the sponsors that I got involved or became friends, advisors. I mean, I'm really close to the CEO of 7-Eleven that has been the CEO of 7-Eleven for 15 years. And that's one of my mentors. And there is a couple other guys that I call for advice. And so, no, I mean, but as far as endorsements and investments, I'm very spoiled. I'm only going to put money if I believe it's a good product. And trust me, I lost huge opportunities, a couple actually, that I could be even richer or but I didn't believe it in the cause, and it was my mistake. But that's the way life is, right?
Yeah, I think it's a fair point, and I coming back to the topic we were just talking about around social media, I tend to think fans and consumers have a better nose for bullshit, right? And so I think if it's somebody and it looks like they're reading a hostage video and it's, this is my brand, I think we just have a better nose for it. Maybe that, I don't know, this I'm sort of reflecting back, like I don't think I did as a child when I would see somebody endorsing a box of Frosted Flakes.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy it just because of that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. That's a good way to say it. So I think it's a fair point there. So I guess pivoting to that, right? You've now become a strategic advisor with some startups. The one that we got connected through was Reflexion. And you mentioned earlier, training your eyes and training your reflexes is just as important as some of the work that you're doing in the gym. So let's maybe talk a little bit about how you connected with that team and what drew you into the product.
So actually, I got to thank my trainer here in Indy, Jim Leo. He has this training facility that is really specified on race car drivers. It's very rare because it's not a business that the guy's going to make millions of dollars because you don't have. It's a gym that needs to actually survive, and you have 10 race car drivers there. So it's kind of like really, the guy really loves what he does. And one day I'm at a gym and we're always talking about, because I bug them all the time. What's new? We need to find this. We're always looking. I'm always sending him things that we need to do better. And also, guys, I mean, think about a person that works out 25 hours a week. You have to innovate, otherwise it gets boring. That is no way you're gonna do biceps for 20 years. I mean, can we have another way that I can do biceps? Can I lift my kid? I mean, it's that. Sure. Let's think outside the box here. So Jim goes, hey, let's see how good you are on your reflexes. I'm like, I'm a race car driver, man. I drive at 240 miles an hour. My reflexes are awesome. Well, let's see. And he introduced me to the Reflexion device, and I got my behind handed to a couple young kids that are not even race car drivers because it's not related. You don't. Anyway, start doing it for people that are not extremely familiar with, which probably not. It's a new device, but it is pretty much. I'm going to simplify it so you guys can understand. It's a big screen, a big touch screen, and you have a software that basically you have plenty of different types of, I would call games, because actually my kids actually play.
Okay.
They think it's a game, but they're actually improving their reflexes, and some exercises, right, that you go through to see how quick you are. And a lot of the reaction stuff that anybody, it's not just race car drivers. I think it's pretty cool when you see somebody react quick at something, right? Oh, we're going to drop a glass, somebody grabbed it. And so anyway, got to the gym, started doing it, been doing it for 2.5 years. It's neuro training, which somebody says, do you know you can train your eyes and you can train your mind? I mean, yeah, you can train your mind to be able to read something, to memorize something, right? Like we just talked about, but like I never really thought that was going to give me an edge in a race car. And once you said it's going to give me an edge in the race car, then that was it. So I became hooked, and I start, trying to be, because as usual, they will have some ranks. And if you and I, we go there, it's going to give me my score.
Yep.
It's going to give your score. And then we start doing it. And we start incorporating that in my workout routine. Fasting forward, I meet Matt. One day it comes to the gym, and we start talking, and I think Matt, and I never met anything by it. I never thought at investing any money in the company, none of that. I was just really, they came to shoot a video for Instagram to actually launch a new product and actually get the awareness of the product. And I think what Matt told me, you can ask him, but I talked so passionately about the product that he says, I need this guy as a whatever, a partner, an investor, on the board advisory. So because I gave him so many other insights as well, can we improve this? Can we improve that? And that's how it started it. I mean, I love the product. It's extremely simple. You don't need a trainer. You don't need somebody to set it up for you. Once you get it, I mean, I have one in the living I mean, we're in the basement here, but we have one here that the kids, we do sessions together. And although, especially for kids, when you try to force something to them, for them, they're playing.
Yeah.
When they're playing, they see the score. And now the brothers my 14-year-old thinks he's, when we're 14, we think we're invincible. And he's beating me. And I'm like, no. So I put them to bed and I come downstairs and I'm trying to improve. But all that is all, it's a product also that is actually designed for athletes. I think it's something that now, obviously, like you said, we're trying to get the awareness out, but it is a huge advantage. And I've been going through, especially here, I live in Indianapolis. I have a lot of connections with the Colts, the Pacers. I've been actually showing these guys, and all the players are like, what? Like, it's everybody's like, it's basically the mentality, right, Jay?
Yeah.
It's how are you going to educate people?
Let's talk about that a little bit, because I think, anytime a new kind of training comes out, right? I remember when the Whoop band came out and a bunch of NBA players were wearing. You're wearing one. Matthew Dellavedova, he was on the podcast, in season 1, and when he wore it, people, first the NBA was trying to stop him, and people didn't know what it was, and now it's a $1 billion mass market product. Every racer is wearing it, every trainer is wearing it. There's always the skepticism when there's a new kind of technology. So as you're sharing it, what is the skepticism for this?
Well, Jay, we as humans, we have a tendency to try to get we believed in what we believe. And that's the biggest issue I see, especially on athletes. We're very conditioned to, I've never done this and I want everything. Why should I do it? Right? You go tell LeBron, hey, LeBron, what are you talking about? What I'm doing, it's fine. I'm not saying LeBron's.
Sure.
I'm going to give you just an example, but the guys that are being more successful are the guys that are being extremely open-minded to try different things. And that's when you get ahead, because by the time we're showing this to people now, I'm already ahead of them because I've been doing it for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's trying to educate, but also as humans, we're always trying to get an affirmation, a confirmation from somebody else. You can tell me whatever you want, but we all are very insecure. As much as you think you're not, but it comes a confirmation. Why do we get companies to get athletes to endorse their product? Because we're trying to convince people that Tony Kanaan is using it, and then it's good for me.
Yeah.
We don't make, and I'm the same. I'm including myself on that. It's not like, no, that's good. Well, who else is, you know what I mean? Like, oh, Tony, let's give Jay an interview in his podcast. Okay, well, who his interview already? It's natural. It's part of human nature, right? So and that's the thing. I mean, it's been amazing how when people find out, it's like, why I didn't hear that before? And then that's how things get blown, especially nowadays, right, Jay? Look at 15 years ago, you tried to invest in the company. You were going to have to set up 15 meetings a week, go door to door. You didn't have a Zoom call, but you also didn't have the awareness of other people endorsing your product for free.
Yeah.
Because it's really a post that somebody did. How many people we've seen, companies that we've seen, that was one post from this huge influencer, it changed their lives.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think it's creating the awareness is the hardest part, and the credibility, because we all deep inside, we're all insecure, and we're looking for a confirmation from somebody else that we believe is more successful than us.
I love that point, and I'll take it one step further. It's that I think as people, we are shifting our signals, our confirmation signals, away from institutions and into people. So it used to be that the New York Times has said, this is the product. Now I don't care. Now it's like, who's the person? Oh, it's somebody I respect, some individual. And part of it is, again, I think this shift of social media, everybody has a phone and a camera in their pocket, and everybody can become the expert in something, right? Correct. And now you have a YouTube channel, now you're reviewing things. So now when I'm looking to buy, I don't know, I have so much random technology that I buy to test out, I don't look on what website has CNET reviewed it. I look on YouTube and I say, oh, this guy who I think is really smart, that's the guy.
Exactly, which in a way you think about it, how cool that is, but also how dumb that is, because there is a fine line, right? Because you like Tony Kanaan, and Tony Kanaan says,
Whoop band.
Headphones are the best. You're going to buy it.
Yeah.
And you buy it and you go, man. And that's why I was telling you that I'm extremely careful with the things that I endorse, because at the end of the day, if I influence you to buy my product and it's bad, Tony Kanaan is bad. It's not the product. Or you're going to go, see how many times we heard this? Well, they pay him $1 gazillion. That's why he's not wearing that.
Yeah.
Which is true. How many athletes, and that I try to avoid that a lot. And I think because probably I have a real job, that I would say I don't make a living making endorsements. I make a living racing cars. So I can actually pick and choose. I'm not here. So I'm not going to sit here and say, guys, if my family was starving and somebody tried to, if it's not a product that is not great, but is not harming anybody.
Yeah.
It's a business, right? It's a deal.
Yeah.
And you're not going to, obviously, never on a consumer market, you're going to please 100% of the people.
Yep. That's true.
And there is a pros and cons. People that don't like Tony Kanaan is not going to buy anything that Tony Kanaan is just because they don't like me.
Right. Right.
So the responsibility of endorsing. So, but especially specifically on the Reflexion, it's something that I see making my kids better, but not making my kids better because they're going to be a top athlete. They're going to be, it's making them safer on reflexes when they're driving their cars. When they, like you just said, oh, my mother freaked out when I first, and that is your parents. I mean, us as parents, the first concern. I don't want my kid to get hurt, no matter what he's doing. If he's climbing on a playground, if he's swimming, if he's jumping on a bike. And this product, it's all that. It's like you improving to just become faster in everything you do. Like you can use that in school. You can use that. So it's not just a specific product that say, oh, we're going to sell to a race car driver. We're going to sell to a shooter. We're going to, like a shooter, I mean, please.
Yeah, no. I know what you mean. Olympic
go for the
shooter.
Olympics.
Yes.
Please. You got to be so careful what you say nowadays.
Yes.
And that's something that I saw a huge part of adding to the community, adding to the people. And that's how, and then Matt, I think Matt saw my passion and he says, hey, do you want to do this? And I'm like, actually, Jay, I always had this rule. I never invested in anything that I wasn't familiar with or I didn't know about or don't, because I don't have a lot of time. So, like when you become successful, we get how many proposals a day. I have this product. I need you to invest here and there. I was always extremely careful. And honestly, I've never invested in anything because the only thing that I understand is racing.
Sure.
And there is nothing to invest in racing, really. So
other than buying a team, right? If that's the direction that you head down.
But that is not an investment.
Oh, okay.
You do that as a passion. Because there's the biggest saying in racing. You know how you make a small fortune in racing? Yeah. Start with a big one. So racing is definitely not. It's a very risky business. But, and then Reflexion was actually the first wheel endorsement that I was actually involved in. And I'm part of the company. I've done endorsements. I have 9 other different companies that I endorse, but I'm not involved. I'm not on the board. I'm just an athlete that use their product and they advertise that I use the product, which like I said, I'm being careful. Things that I endorse, it's things that I wear. You're not gonna see me endorsing. I'm endorsed by Hoka, the shoes, because of the triathlon. You're never gonna see me on the street in another shoe. But that's because I really actually like the product. Yeah. And sometimes, how many times you see athletes, they are sponsored by another company and they take a picture like, why was he wearing that?
Well,
know,
that was the funny thing when LeBron, I think, became a Kia spokesperson. You're like, we know what's in his garage. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
and he's doing a selfie between training, going from his house and inside the Mercedes. You guys, dude, come on, man. Maybe fake it a bit.
Maybe a little bit. No, I would love to understand, Tony, because that's, I think, one of the things that is, I think, one of the reasons people like listening to the game plan is understanding a little bit of the behind the scenes. What does that role as a strategic advisor look like? Are you advising on the product? I know you mentioned you gave product feedback. Is it more on expansion and, going in a different place? What does your role look like?
It's a little bit of everything, but the biggest thing is the awareness. But we also focusing on what I know, which is athletes, right? I mean, Tony Kanaan not gonna go to Jay's house that has no idea who I am and knock on your door and say, I have this reflection thing. So the connection is, I'm a top athlete. It's easier to open a door. If I call the Pacers, the CEO of Pacers, Tony Kanaan is calling, or the guy at the Miami Heat, or talking about basketball because I'm a huge basketball fan. But I went to Indiana University to try to give to their athletes, to Butler here, which the young kids. And when we're not just trying to get the teams, because usually the worst investment you have is try to sell something to a NBA team or because they want things for free. Because it's like, okay, well, we're gonna support this. What were you gonna give us?
It's a tough lesson a lot of startups learn when they first start selling into teams. So I'm glad you caught on to that.
Exactly. Well, I'm like, guys, those people, how much money do we have to give stuff to them? Because the first conversation will be, we love the product. We need 4 of them. And if you need us to post, I'm like, so my role is to advise them on that.
Yep.
Get the awareness that, it is obviously what I do. It's probably one of the most dangerous sports that they are involved in, trying to teach people reflexes and stuff that it's beneficial and actually improving the product itself. Because I've been doing it for a while. So we always say, well, what about now? It got to one point, to give an example, that I figured out a couple of the moves that the exercise went. So it went on. It wasn't more in reflex anymore.
It was memory. You were predicting.
It was memory.
Yeah.
So guys, we need to what do we do? They're like, perfect. Let's change that. It's just the feedback, right?
Yep.
And when it's a new product, it's easy to say when your product gets out there and then it's tested by thousands of people and you have thousands of feedback to improve. But when you're a small company like that, there's not a lot of feedback back. So that is actually my biggest role. I'm probably the most hated guy on the board because I'm always complaining about things in a way of, I want to make it better. And like I was saying to you before, I think because every time I'm in the race car, I'm getting tested. I gotta be the best. I have to beat the best. And I'm only as good as my last race. That's kind of the way I conduct also so it's like, no, but we're not the best because I tried that other, company that does this and they have this better. So how can we, it sounds that I'm always trying to push them to the limit because that's the way I live.
Yeah.
I'm pushed to my limits every time, but that is not one specific role, Jay. It's basically kind of everything, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, but you're leaning in as a true partner much more than a traditional endorser role, which you've done as well. This is really
which they gave me the option, and I said, look, I love the product. I don't, it would be much easier for me to say, all right, you're going to pay me this amount of dollars a month. How many posts do you need? Which I've done it before for them for free because I love the product. And that's how a lot of my endorsements started it. I like something I post and actually the company reaches out and say, hey, so I said, no, let me be part of it. Let me be part of the company because then it's going to drive me also to want it to do more. And so basically it starts from trying to sell to teams, race teams, basketball teams, and get the context because, Matt, it's Matt. No offense to Matt. Matt owns Reflection. And 10 years from now, when Reflection gets gazillion dollars and he's the CEO, they know Matt, they're going to pick up the phone. But right now, they pick up the phone easier to Tony Kanaan.
It's a startup,
So that's a door that I can actually open for him. And, showing up, I as we talk to people, part of that are listening are trying to figure out also how they can invest, how they, I think it's an inspiration. And I think I found out it makes a huge difference to the credibility of your product when you show up in person and you bring in the athlete, right? You bring the personality that is in, and people understand it's natural. It's not like, oh, he's paying this guy to be here and I'm sitting in the meeting. Yeah. All right. We got extremely positive response when, I think you can notice the passion that I have for the 100%. Product just by talking about, and that's the way when I show up in the meeting, that's what I do. And then, like you said, people have the BS sensor on. They know if you're doing it because you want to sell, or you're doing because you really believe in the product. Yeah. So, and that's something that I noticed. It made a huge difference when I show up. I mean, obviously with COVID, we have to kind of change that a little bit, but it's I believe the product, it's awesome, and then people should actually try it. I mean, they have. We're trying to, another hurdle that I said, look, this thing, it's huge. I mean, it's a huge TV. It's in the wall. It's at a gym. I'm like, well, great. But if you want to grow this and you want to, a lot of people don't go to the gym. Mm-hmm. But also with
COVID, especially, I mean, the at-home fitness, Peloton, all of that stuff has been on a high.
But also you're going to tell me I need to buy a 50-inch TV to put it in the wall to get it's like, too complicated. People get we got spoiled nowadays. Like everything we know, like you said, you're looking in the internet, it's like, I'm not going to go out there and buy a TV and have to drill. I don't even know how to drill a hole in the wall. I got to hire somebody. And then the cost starts. So I'm like, guys, we need something portable. We need something that, I mean, I want it the way Tony Kanaan is. I want it. I want it now. If you don't have it, I'm going to buy something else.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm looking for a headphone, and I want that, and you don't have it, oh, no, you got to wait 2 months. Bye. Or I'll look for somebody else that has the same one, or I'll buy the similar one. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I said, we need to have the product right away, which is hard nowadays because of COVID. But also we need a portable one because I travel a lot. If I'm going to wait every time I'm home to do that exercise, it's going to be once a week, twice a week, because that's average the time I spend at home. And when I'm home after traveling for 4 days, 5 days, I'm not going to turn my Reflexion machine on. I want to be with my kids.
Yeah.
So we created one that we can take it. You can take it with you.
Wow.
It's more portable. It's like we're developing to be on a tablet. So, I mean, I'm doing some tests. I'm actually probably saying more than I should. Matt's going to kill me. But like with my travel, I'm on the plane. People think I'm crazy because why are people watching movies and playing games? People think I'm actually playing games. Like, look at this guy with gray hair and playing this game but it's not. I mean, I'm doing on my tablet. So those are the things that I've been trying to push them, and then they're a great company. Those guys are young guys. I mean, they're very open-minded, and I've been learning a lot with them too.
I was going to say, I mean, it's clear how passionate you are about this. We talked about obviously incorporating technology in different ways because you want to stay ahead of the game. That's the number one thing I'm learning about you here. Is this something it's hard to have a conversation, not talk about retirement, because you had already, thought about it being your last year and then it wasn't, and you came back. So, I mean, share a little bit of the mindset of maybe what comes next. Is a role like this with other companies what excites you? How do you think about the next step?
Yeah, I mean, I got to figure that after 25 years of racing in IndyCar, at some point it's going to come to an end. And like you said, I tried to retire, but the good thing about it is I wasn't the guy that you see many athletes. You saw when Michael Jordan, one of my all-time favorites, decides to retire and misses so bad that he comes back.
Yeah,
right. I did not do that. I decided because I could see the light at the end of the tunnel that it was getting more difficult because the young guns are coming up, and I can see that there's not a lot of places for me to go anymore. So I said, before somebody retires me, I am going to make the decision. And surprisingly enough, people that follow IndyCar and NASCAR, Jimmy Johnson decided to retire from NASCAR but go race in IndyCar, and make a phone call and says, I don't want to do a whole season. Do you want to share with me? And here you go. I'm back. I never retired. That was actually the year that I announced. That deal came in the middle of the year. So I'm kind of like announced, but I'm not anymore. So, but yeah, what's beyond, Jay? It's that's the question that everybody asks me nowadays in every interview that I do, because you get into a point that athletes have a very short
shelf life.
career, right?
Yeah,
And I have to say, I probably had one of the longest in racing. I'm 46. It's unheard of that, in my generation, somebody lasted this long. So I don't have a plan, which people think, wow, this guy's not organized. I love the role that I have with Reflexion. I think that is a lot of potential for me to be more involved with that, for sure. Not just with them, but with other companies. I love the speaking role. I told you probably 10% of my story in the beginning of the podcast. And I think that is an inspiration for some people. I do a lot of that for my sponsors, for the companies. I mean, I do speeches for 500 people just talking about how I made it.
Yeah.
And what to try to inspire people to not to get down and believe that it's possible, right? I mean, I guess this was actually a full podcast talking about inspiring people what to do, if it's investing or not. And so that is something that I like it a lot. And also commentating the races on TV, it's something that I've been doing lately. So there are many angles that I can't, I don't think I'm like, well, I have established business. I'm only going to focus on, let's put it this way. If Reflexion is going to take 80% of my time when I retire because the company is being extremely successful and I don't have time to do anything else, that's what I'm going to do. But I don't have a straight answer for that.
No, I think it's fair to think about. And I know, as an athlete, the number of athletes we've talked to, it's sometimes the single-minded focus is really what you need in order to achieve those goals. And I think there's some for whom having, being able to scratch that itch off the court allows them to focus more. And you hear that from some modern athletes today where they say, I need to have my creative side over here, but then when I'm on, I'm on. And then for others, it's, listen, I can only think about one thing because that's what I need to make sure I do a good job with. And I think there's no right way, right? It really depends on the individual and the personality.
No, and again, I'm that type of person. When I'm racing, I have to think about, look at my life. I told you my routine.
Yeah.
It's all involving the racing part. And then when I have a break, I do your podcast. I talk to Matt about Reflexion. So, the dynamic will change. Yeah. But also, if you think about every successful athlete that did a high performance job, it took 80% of his time to do that. And then you don't see, when you see an athlete trying to balance that out, that means he's trying to phase out that performance. It's not as good as it used to be. And then we can use as, he's getting old. It's not that, guys. We don't get we get old, but we don't until if you're 60 years old and you can't walk, an athlete's always going to be an athlete. You're going to, it's going to take a longer to recover. But what changes is your priorities, right? When I started racing, I was 20 years old. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. All I thought about was racing. I had no other problems, no other issues, had no other business. I didn't have a family. I mean, my wife, now I have 4 kids. I have a wife. I have other things. Your priorities started to change, but unfortunately, when you're racing at the level that I'm at, everything, any of those things that I just told you, they come secondary.
Yeah.
There is no way. I can't. And they know that. My family knows that. The day that you start thinking the other way, it's when you start balancing it out. That's when you have to say, okay. So to me, because I had to come back from retirement, partial retirement, I'm still in that mode. So until then, I think, which my contract ends in the end of next year.
Yeah.
I think we could have that conversation again. Then I say, okay, now I even then think I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to take a month or 2 off. And now I got to look what's going to happen. But there is no, as an athlete, I was fortunate enough. If you're a smart athlete, you work hard enough that you can do whatever you want. When you retire. I'm not saying that you need to be a millionaire, but if you live in your own means, nobody's talking about you need to have 10 cars, watches, none of that stuff. If you plan right to live the life that you want to live or in your means, then basically, Jay, I can join you in your podcast every week if I want to. You know what I mean? That's pretty much my plan.
Yeah. Tony, 2 more questions before we close. I mean, this has been so enlightening for me, and I know will be for the listeners as well. I'd love to talk a little bit about the idea of perseverance. And I think for entrepreneurs, especially, success can come in waves, which means that there's a long period of time where You're working really hard, but you're not seeing the results that you want. I think you've gone through those ups and downs, in your career, obviously 2004, and then, to 2013, winning the Indy 500. How do you think about perseverance? And, is it something that can be learned, or is it just a personality trait that some people have, that ability to persevere?
No, it can be learned, but I think the biggest mistake people make is setting a time. I've been doing this for so long and I'm not successful. Who said that? Where's the rule book that said that? If you try to run the Indy 500 12 times and you don't win, you need to quit. You try to do your podcast, but you only have 3 listeners a week. After 3 months, you need to quit. Why? I mean, it baffles me. So I personally think perseverance comes to how much are you willing to sacrifice and how far you want to be pushed. Because the biggest mistake we all make is listening to other people, because that's how it started. Jay, come on, man. Nobody's listening to this. You need to do something else, right? Or somebody says, no, Jay, it's great. Keep going. Why do we need that confirmation? What do you want to do? For me, was never about what other people thought. I got asked questions. Oh, are you okay if you're going to be one of the greatest IndyCar drivers never to win the 500? You're already 38 years old. It's coming to an end. I mean, I won the 500 in 2013, and I'm still racing the Indy 500. So people that told me that in 2012, that's 10 years ago. Yeah. So that means I still had 10 more tries, 10 more years to do it. So who was listening to those kind of people? Or honestly, who were listening to anybody? You got to listen to one person and only. It's you. The day that you say, you know what? I am going to give up. You're not a quitter. You feel like it, because once you're not in it, it's not going to work. Once are you looking for the confirmation of somebody else, if you should be doing this, there is a difference asking for advice than actually asking for an opinion. Because everybody's going to have an opinion. But my opinion, I don't know. I mean, I know somebody that knows me for 10 years doesn't know me for 46. You don't know where I'm at mentally. Anyway, for me, perseverance means how much are you willing to sacrifice and be strong enough that you're going to fail, and maybe maybe it will never work, but you'll find a positiveness to say, it didn't work the way I wanted it to work, but it worked. Right? Yeah. I don't know if I was able to express what.
No, I think you really did. I think it's the idea that it's not up to somebody else when you succeed, and you are the only one that decides.
But also, what is success? Because I'm not going to ask your opinion. Then you're going to tell me, but then I might disagree with you.
Yeah.
Who am I to tell you about your great, the great podcast that you have, all your initiatives to help startups? Who am I to say you're not successful? If you are in your own mind, who am I to tell you're not? I might say, well, you're not as successful as I think you should be. Well, but that's my opinion. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter.
I think that's been it's so interesting, Tony, because that's been my philosophy a lot with especially creating content. Right, we talked about one of the big things I do with our companies is helping with media. My belief has been is that people quit too soon. Is that
but why? Yeah. You know why? Because they go on social media, somebody says, "Oh, this sucks," or somebody tells them, "Well, this is." I mean, I was 13 years old. My dad passed away. I remember half of my dad's family saying to my mother, "You're crazy. This kid needs to go to school, get a graduation, and go to work. The dream is over. His dad is gone. You guys aren't going to have any money to support this." Well, how about if I had done that? I would have been a successful CEO. I'll be on Forbes under 40 because I'm the whatever. Was that what I wanted to do? Yeah. No. All right. Well, thank you for your opinion, but that's if let me come to that conclusion myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's easy to say. I mean, I can sit here with you and we can preach that, but I fell into it plenty of times. I asked myself, I just said that half an hour ago. We are insecure human beings. We are. Because when you start your ventures or you're an investor, you never know. You believe it's going to work, but you're like, man, if that doesn't work, So that's why you invested safe, or you put more risk. That's how we live life.
Yeah. Somebody gave me advice when I started an investor where they said, Jay, it's going to take you at least 5 years to know whether you're good at this job. So if you can take 5 years of not knowing, then fine. Then it's a good career path for you.
Correct.
And if you plan, I'm 7 years in now, so maybe I'm getting a little bit of a signal, but
you get better. I hope so, because if not, you also have to look at yourself and say, I mean, I might do something else.
But it is interesting.
It's a tough question. I get asked a lot of the times, especially like my kids too. How do you know that's what you wanted it to be? Yeah. And nowadays you see that there's too much opportunities out there, and then kids get confused because no, I should do this. No, I should do that. I said, listen, guys, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. Then, okay, that's a good start.
Yeah.
But then when start doing something, and then you go, no, but now I gotta go. I said, I became a good race car driver for one reason only. That's all I wanted it to do.
Yeah.
That was a start. And then I said, that is no for, I already have the no for answer. So I'm going to go for the yes. And that is nothing that is going to get in my path that is going to prevent me from doing what I want. And obviously, I think I had probably the harshest example of losing my dad. So nothing else could be worse than that.
Yeah. So
it kind of made me stronger in a way, saying, well, whatever, if I don't race, whatever, I lost my dad,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, back to the perseverance. It's just, I think the question is, how much are you willing to take the failure, and how much you're going to be strong enough to believe that you're still on the right path.
Tony, I think that's a fantastic place to leave it, because I don't think we can end on a better note than that. So I want to thank you again for joining us on the Game Plan, sharing your wisdom, sharing your experiences, and then obviously telling us more about some of the work that you're doing with Reflection. So thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on soon as the company starts to grow.
I promise you one thing. Let's do this. Once in a year from now, you ask me the question, what am I going to do after I retire? I would love to know. So I'll come here. Maybe we'll deliberate together what's next for me.
I would love that, Tony. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.
Thanks, man.